want to say thank you very much, Don. It's a pleasure to be here with all of you. I'd like to take a moment to thank AICC Canada for their partnership with AICC International. It's been one that's been working well for so many years that and I like the reference that you mentioned with the new members to family, and I welcome them also, but we are a family. And along those lines, I too want to thank John Franciosa for all of his service, not just to AICC Canada, but to AICC International. He was always a reliable and calming influence at the AICC International meetings, and he and Mona were always a great pleasure to be with. So we want to thank John for his service. Want to thank Stephen Moore for his service for the past couple of years as president of AICC Canada, and let you, Don, know that you have our full support in your new role, along with the board that you named this morning. At the end of my presentation, you'll see the members of the AICC staff that stand ready to work with everyone up in Canada, along with Renee. I guess we should start out in acknowledging that because we're in a pandemic, AICC staff remains on the job and well. Most of them are working remotely. I'm in the office every day. The office is open, has been open pretty much throughout, but lightly attended and keeping consistent with the request of the Commonwealth of Virginia's governor that you just socially distance as much as possible. Here at the office, if you don't know, we're a staff of 10, so it's already pretty easy to socially distance, but normally just 2 or 3 or 4 of us are in the office on any given day. In fact, I come to the office because I'm more socially distanced here than I am in my home, so it works out well for us. So again, we're all doing fine. We hope you are as well. And with that, I'll start my presentation. Because we're in a pandemic, we like to start with talking about strength, because I want everyone to know that AICC is in a strong position financially, which is something that we took a little bit of a hit on in fiscal year 2020, which ended on June 30th of this past summer. But as you can see from the balance sheet that I have up on the screen now, we are in a very strong financial position. These are US dollars, by the way. I apologize for not converting over, but I do want to share one number with you that I have converted over to Canadian dollars. AICC has in reserves, that is in investments and cash, about 4.8 million Canadian dollars. So that should give all members the reassurances that they need that AICC has been well managed for a long time. I've just been the president of AICC since July 1st of 2019, so it's going to take a lot more than Mike D'Angelo and the pandemic to screw up AICC's finances or our mission for the next 10 years or 20 years or beyond. So we're in a very strong financial position. Operationally in fiscal year 2020, we're currently in fiscal year 2021. AICC basically broke even on the operational line. We lost about 9,000 US dollars, which when you consider we lost about 25% of our revenue, I think shows you how quick the staff was to pivot, I guess is the common word used these days, maybe overused. But the staff pivoted and we were able to keep things on a fairly even keel operationally. We had about $130,000 overall loss, all below the line. Some of the investments that 4.8 million Canadian was involved in took a hit with our fiscal year ending in June and the pandemic starting in earnest in March, I guess, when everybody kind of caught on to it and recognized it. Some of our investments didn't recover. They have since recovered, but I'm reporting out, at least in this portion of my presentation, for how things were as of June 30th. The other strength that we have is our membership. It's great that you've added 3 new members in Canada. As of June 30th, 2020, AICC worldwide, because we do have a few members in Europe as well as in the Far East, totals 471. The majority of them are general members. Those are box making members. And the balance obviously are associate members or supplier members to the box makers. AICC collected about 1.6 million US dollars in dues in fiscal year 2020. I'll talk about 2021 renewals in a minute. And our retention rate was slightly below our target of 94% at 93%, which is not good. We like to make our targets, of course, but the good news is if you look at the typical retention numbers from association land, all associations, they tend to be in the 75 to 80% range. And actually in the pandemic year, the retention numbers have begun to take a hit. And AICC in fiscal year 2020 added 36 new members. So there's still a lot of growth opportunity. It's a growing association. And I guess, Don, we'll have time for Q&A at some point after this, but we'll just carry on. So we'll do a quick review of fiscal year 2020. As I mentioned, it was a normal year, in the air quotes, through February. We'd begun our fiscal year July 1st of 2019, and we'd had all of our regular programming. We'd been up to Canada a few times for some of your regular programming. Everything was going along great. We were on target for meeting all of our financial goals. And then, as I said, recognition of the pandemic occurred, and everybody pivoted to something new. AICC halted all in-person programming. We moved a lot of our events to online. We did a daily, early on in the pandemic, COVID update video conference every Friday. This would be attended in some cases by over 250, sometimes over 300 members, which is a high rate of participation for AICC. As the pandemic became more mature, we moved that to weekly COVID calls, weekly calls, and then bi-weekly. Now we do a weekly COVID update at the website, which gives relevant information for members to use. We update that every Monday morning. If you've been checking it out, great. If you haven't, I suggest you take a look. You can also scroll back from that point on the site to look at any COVID information going back to March 17th. It's all there cumulatively. As I mentioned, we had our first financial loss since 2012, although we did have an operational break even. I mentioned renewals for 2021. We were a little concerned because it's a pandemic, people are uncertain, nobody knows what's going on, but our renewals were actually running ahead of what they were at the same time last year in 2019 for our 2021 fiscal year. And I believe we're going to, there's still a few stragglers, there always are at this time of year, but I believe we'll get above our target for retention of members. And I think that goes to the value that AICC can deliver and has delivered, especially at a time of uncertainty. If we weren't there for our members, we're providing them what they need and weren't providing a forum for them to get together with each other and share best practices and talk about experiences, ways to keep employees safe, where the business is going, this type of thing. And especially early on when there was a lot of uncertainty. I mean, I know the business is very strong right now for a number of factors. We know that and paper grades can be tight in some areas and the like. It's kind of a little bit different than the way things were, 4 or 5 months ago. But our members rely on one another. Go back to that family image that Don mentioned. They do rely on one another. And in addition to providing the networking, which is always, I think, at its peak when we're at in-person events, there is the ability to network as we are doing today and as you've done, with your fellow members in any number of different ways. I think the other very strong deliverable for AICC in fiscal year 2020 in the pandemic was utilization of Packaging School. AICC's Packaging School is a free online educational platform for every AICC member and every employee of every AICC member. Of the 471 member companies we have, about 463 of them have taken at least one course on the packaging school. We have over 80 courses available online. We're approaching about 20 of those translated into Spanish now, and we're working on more all the time. I share this because the utilization of AICC's packaging school exploded at the beginning of the pandemic. And this is a tough slide to read, especially if we're playing a big room, but on your own computers, the important line to look at is the purple line here. Here's March and April. Here's where our packaging school logons were, let's call it pre-pandemic. Look what happened during the pandemic. It's come back to normal, if you will. It's actually running a little bit higher than 2019. This was probably to do with some of the programming in the States. I don't know if there were the same programming in Canada. I probably should know, so I apologize for that. As part of the PPP, the Paycheck Protection Program that the US government instituted, training of employees was included in time that was eligible for compensation for PPP. So even if an operator were not running a machine, if he or she were taking an online class, they could be included, that the pay for that could be included in the PPP compensation numbers that a converter would provide to the US government. So that is one of the reasons that the utilization of AICC's packaging school exploded. But I think you can also see the trends in 2019, 2020. Every year, utilization of the packaging school has been going up. And that's an important thing. I mean, it was up over 300% at the peak of utilization this year. And we continue to add courses, and it is, there's several, networking is one of the major benefits of an AICC membership. This is as the members report them. Access to online education for all employees, and a lot of our members are using this in their onboarding. A lot of our members are using this in their culture building when they hire new employees. Employees like to know that the company is investing in them. And AICC's packaging school allows you to invest in your employees through the good use of your AICC dues. There's no additional cost for you to make this available to your employees. So if you're not, you should be. If you'd like AICC staff to work with the person that's responsible for HR in your company, put us in touch with that HR person, and we will develop programming that can help your company tailor make our roster of classes into something that makes the most sense for your employees. We have partners in some of what we're doing educationally. AICC's Education Investors Program is where, in this case, supplier companies actually create an online class, and we want to recognize, when virtually every one of our presentations, we recognize these partner companies. You see them on the screen here, but I'll name them anyway. Fosber, BCM Inks, Sun Automation, JB Machinery, Pomarco, Absolute, Printron, EFI, Kruger, Bobst, HP, and Stafford Corrugated Products. Each one of these companies has or is in the process of creating an online course which they have some expertise in, and that does take some of the financial burden off of AICC in terms of the creation of these courses, and we truly appreciate their participation in the program. We try and communicate in so many ways with our members. Publications are just one way. The November-December issue of Box Score is in the mail. It should be arriving here in the States next week, maybe up your way a little bit later, but it's on its way. Every Monday, we have an electronic newsletter that we put out called Inbox. We have Scoring Boxes, which is Dick Storat, who is a corrugated industry veteran who keeps an eye on statistics and the movement of paper markets and things like that. That just came out, I believe, yesterday. I got mine. We've got white papers. I know it gets cold up in Canada pretty quick. We've got one that's been very popular of late as the winter's setting in on score cracking and the like. And we just did complete our salary, hourly wage, and benefits report, which, while predominantly populated with data from US members, probably has some value to Canadian companies as well, just to see what companies are doing to compensate their employees in a broad range of roles in the plant, from a shift supervisor, a machine operator, to a salesperson. So you should take advantage of all of these opportunities of information and communication, in addition to the, excuse me, something's popping up on my screen, nothing I have to do. Okay. In addition to the electronic media that we provide, which I'll get to some of that in a moment as well. For those of you that don't know, AICC operates on what's called the destination model. The board of directors, which Terry Lynn ably represents Canada on, meets every winter and basically maps out what the upcoming fiscal year should look like in terms of obviously a financial performance, but more importantly, benefits being delivered to the membership and the like. And essentially that destination model becomes the template that AICC staff follows in their interactions with the various committees, and virtually every member, any member of AICC can participate on one or more standing committees. There's membership and marketing, there's convention content, there's paperboard sheet supply and regulations, there's the education committee. There's a number of committees that you can be a part of to shape the direction that AICC takes. But the destination model creates what it's going to look like at the end of the fiscal year on June 30th. We also look at what it's going to look like at the half year at December 31st as well. In fiscal year 2021, which we find ourselves in, we're looking at a financial destination of about $3.1 million in revenue. This is down by about $800,000 from what our FY 2020 target was. Not having a spring meeting in fiscal year 2020 and not having a fall meeting in fiscal year 2021 essentially takes about $800,000 worth of revenue out of AICC's budget. Takes a substantial amount of cost out of the budget too, because we generally run these things at just slightly better than break even. That's our goal. But so our revenue projections down. As I mentioned, we keep our membership retention targets pretty consistent at 94%. We're looking to add 25 new general members and 20 new associate members. I should have updated the slide because Virginia tells me we're up to 6 new generals and 6 new associates already this year. We've got some financial goals where dues is a percentage of revenue. It's important that we not be too dependent on just membership dues. A lot of associations that are 90 to 100% dependent on membership dues are suffering in the pandemic right now because of the difficulty of some of their members are having in staying in business or meeting their own financial goals, and they're letting their association memberships lapse. As I mentioned, our members aren't lapsing. To the contrary, they're stepping up and participating even more. But AICC is very well balanced in terms of where we get our revenue from dues, of course, from in-person meetings, from education and events like that. And then we also try and keep the dues as a hedge against administrative costs, covering those by 100%. We usually get close to it. Sometimes we're on it, sometimes we're not, but it's always fun to sweat the details on things like this. We do have metrics for everything, so that's how we run the destination model. We measure everything, and we share those with the staff every month. We share those with the executive committee every month as well. Education and training, we continue to want to grow the courses that we've got. So as the consumption is going up, we grow the number of courses that are available, and we strive to have about 10 new online courses every year. along with 6 translations as a minimum. These are goals that are being met and exceeded right now, and we're branching out. We had a meeting yesterday where we're launching a course in conjunction with the National Wooden Pallet Association, which goes into how boxes perform in shipment, depending on where they are sitting in the pallet, at the corners, in the center, low on the stack, high in the stack, what the dynamic loads are, things like that. This can help you with your design criteria and help you become even more valuable to your customers. We are planning on having a national meeting in person at Amelia Island in Florida, which is in the Jacksonville area, April 26th through 28th, 2021. We're optimistic. We hope that the vaccine delivers. We hope that people, based on surveys, we know that people are ready to come out. We surveyed members, and 67% indicated that if we hold a meeting, they are either likely to come or very likely to come. Granted, the survey came out before things started to flare up down here in a lot of the states, but we are still planning to have an in-person meeting, albeit with reduced attendance, because some people are just going to want to stay home, and certainly with lots of safety precautions taken. The property, Cindy Huber, our director of meetings, has visited. Property is primarily outdoors, and we will try and have as much programming outdoors as we can. And even the rooms are accessed from an outer hallway rather than an inner hallway. We like the venue as being able to help us put on a safe meeting. There'll be more about that. There will also be a hybrid aspect to the meeting, so that anyone that is uncomfortable traveling will still be able to participate. Or in a twist, if you do go down to Florida, but you don't want to sit in a ballroom with 150 other people, even if we are socially distanced, with the hybrid, you'll be able to sit poolside and watch the proceedings. And then you can pick and choose who you're going to get together with, or who you're going to see, or what programming you're going to take advantage of. We try and always make things relevant, but there's an added layer now of, in addition to having topics that are relevant and workshops that are relevant, we also have to make sure that we're keeping our members safe. And that will be our priority, but we are pressing forward with plans for an in-person meeting. We're also pressing forward with plans for an in-person Supercore Expo, which AICC jointly owns and presents with TAPI. That'll be in August of 2021 in Orlando, Florida. That was postponed from this past September. There's likely to be a hybrid aspect to that. I think it's a little tougher to do with a trade show, but the AICC staff and the TAPI staff are working to make sure that we put on as dynamic an event as can be done, given the realities of whatever August is going to look like, which should, we hope to be in very good shape, especially with the advent of a vaccine. But we continue to work for membership in that regard. A couple of quick things about FY 2021. Very exciting news. On Monday of this week, AICC launched its second education charity. Many of you are familiar with the International Corrugated Packaging Foundation. AICC is the co-sponsor of that with the Fiber Box Association. The ICPF's mission is to fund programming at packaging schools and universities in an effort to drive graduates to the corrugated industry. The foundation that AICC launched on Monday, the Foundation for Packaging Education, will be focused on funding training programs for employees that are already in the industry, essentially to ensure sustainable program growth for AICC's packaging school and other education initiatives. In essence, ICPF's mission is to get people to the front door of the corrugated box plant, and AICC's mission, the Foundation for Packaging Education's mission, is to educate them once they're in the box plant. So it's very exciting. There's we already have $500,000 US in pledges for this endeavor. And AICC's board of directors voted $1 million match. So the first $1 million in pledges that AICC receives for the Foundation for Packaging Education will be matched by AICC like funding, so that if we get $1 million in pledges, AICC tosses $1 million in from those reserves I mentioned earlier. The foundation will have $2 million of money, seed money, to get started with, and that will adequately assure the programming for packaging education that you, our members, can take advantage of and can count on, not just this year, but into the foreseeable future. In addition to networking and education, another important deliverable of AICC is the ability for you to participate in CEO advisory groups and leadership advisory groups. If you are the owner of a AICC member box company and you are not in a CEO group, I suggest that you get in touch with AICC. These are peer programs of 8 to 10 CEOs from around the industry, hopefully geographically separated so we don't throw competitors into the same group, but they meet a couple of times a year in person, usually in one of the box plants. Most of them have been meeting virtually, although one group did meet 2 weeks ago down in Alabama and had a very good meeting, so it's beginning to happen. Other leadership advisory groups are for other levels within the company below the ownership level that focus on specific topics and disciplines, and it can be very enlightening for other employees in your company and other partners in your company. Our Emerging Leaders program has been very successful and gets the young people together, gives them their own network, and they have been very dynamic of late and have upgraded their programming and had more virtual events than I can think about. But it's all been very good, and it's all a bit of fun as well as a bit educational as well. With the pivot, AICC put together a list of about 50, it's more than 50 webinars now that were scheduled from roughly September 1st of 2020 through the end of August 2021. We've developed an all-access pass for that. Rather than paying for each one, and each individual who attends each of these seminars, an all-access pass for a very, very low price relative to the total of 50 allows you to access all 50 of the webinars that are scheduled, and all of your employees in your company can take advantage of them. We also have hybrid courses, which are a very interesting development from the education department, where we've got online virtual education, some homework to be done, some downtime work to be done that creates a very interesting and unique educational experience. That's not part of the all access pass, but is very specific. There's a financial one that started yesterday. There was a virtual sales one. How, if you can't go see your customers, how can you sell them? 2 experts that are teaching, I guess they had about 60 people on the first one, how to leverage this type of communication as well as others to make an impact with your customers. On December 9th, we're going to launch a virtual plant tour series. These are very, whenever we have a meeting, we do a plant tour someplace. When we were in Toronto with our national meeting last September, I think we did 5 plant tours in person. Because they're so popular, we've lined up several AICC member companies to put on a virtual plant tour. This is going to be a Zoom type webinar like this, where you're going to tour through a box plant. The December 9th tour will be of Duzo Box in Orlando, Florida, John Kelly's operation. After the tour, John will answer any questions that you have about his operation, and you will also be able to speak to suppliers who have equipment in the Duzo Box facility, and then other facilities going forward with other suppliers. We'll do about 1 a month. That's our plan. And then finally, Converter Think Tank sessions. The first one is this Friday. The topic is going to be what's going on in the paper markets with the $50 per ton price increase that is expected to be recognized this coming Friday evening by RISI. We've got some panelists from our paperboard and sheet supply subcommittee who look at these things and talk about these things and decide whether AICC needs to make a response on behalf of the membership for these things. And we decided we'd make it an educational opportunity. So if you think you'd be interested in that, you should sign up for the First Converter Think Tank. And then we'll be doing one of those a quarter or thereabouts, just to kind of put together a panel and talk about the important topics of the day. Into the home stretch now. I apologize if I'm taking too long, everyone. Here's your AICC team, alphabetically, but also because she was kind enough to invite us and to host this call for us. Renee from AICC Canada, Maria Frustacci, Cindy Huber, Virginia Humphrey, who you're about to hear from, Chelsea May, Laura Mihalik, Veronica Reyes Morales in AICC Mexico, Patrick Moore, Taryn Pyle, Elise Ryan, and Steve Young, our past president and our ambassador at large. The individuals highlighted in blue here are not AICC staff, but they work very closely with AICC and provide expertise to any member. It's part of our Ask the Expert series. Doug Friel is about safety, Tom Weber about folding carton and rigid boxes, and Ralph Young about corrugated. And then finally, Scott Ellis consults with our education people on developing education curricula. And he also basically facilitates, in addition to CEO advisory groups, he facilitates our emerging leaders group as well. And I can speak for all of these folks to say that they're more than happy to work for you and with you, because people at AICC, we know our why, and we love our jobs. So thank you very much for the time that you've shared with me. When you invest and engage, AICC delivers success. Thank you again. I guess we're going to do some questions, Don, if anybody has any.
Yeah, I was able to unmute. I just want to see if, I think it's Renee that has to be able to start my video. There we go. Okay, excellent. Thanks, Renee. Appreciate that. That was a great presentation, Mike. Thanks a lot. We do have one question. Came up on the chat option, which is totally fine. It's from Greg. And it says, what percentage of independent box makers in Canada are members of AICC? And what support can AICC International Membership Committee give to promote the benefits of membership? I don't know if you want to start or do you want me to start?
I don't know the answer to percentage of box makers in Canada. So if you do know that, feel free, or Virginia may know that as our director of membership, but go ahead.
Yeah, I guess, no, quite frankly, I would say I don't have a percentage in front of me. A lot of that has to do with different provinces, specifically out west. I think of out west, out east would be a little bit of that too. There's definitely some members. So out in BC, we have a lot of AICC people that'll join the AICC, but that specific sector that's more connected to northern US, northern western US, they prefer to join there as opposed to kind of our hybrid Canada and also getting the benefits of AICC International. So I don't, to answer your question, I don't have a percentage. I would say on a committee side, from a kind of almost a bring in more membership side, we know that there's room for growth. In the past, we feel like we've lost out on some members and potential members in Quebec and in British Columbia, simply because it's difficult for them to attend all the events and in-person events. Now that's changed a little bit over the last year. So if we're looking at things optimistically, everybody's getting used to these virtual meetings. So why wouldn't they want to be a hybrid member of Canada and be able to take advantage of all those international benefits as well? I don't know if you have
for any potential members in Quebec, I would let you know that Virginia speaks French fluently. So just keep that in mind if you're making any runs and you need some language skills.
I will, because my even though my last name is French, If my grandmother was here, she'd be reminding me that she's not too impressed. I let that drop off. Well, thank you very much for your presentation. I should point out that Virginia did post a few links on the chat, and one of them is to see what's happening with AICC International, and I think it's a good idea for you to go check that out. All that stuff that Mike talked about, that's upcoming, all virtual, all, you know, it'll definitely, you're going to learn a lot from it.
And I would add one thing, Don. You know, when as part of the question was, you know, how do we promote what AICC is doing to members in Canada? As far as I know, virtually every email that we send out about what's going on, and we're very sensitive to the fact that we may send a lot of emails, or we try not to send too many of them. But when we do send out information promoting an AICC event or initiative, that goes to our members in Canada. It goes to our members in the States. It goes to our members in Mexico. There's, you know, in addition to any specific mailings that you and Renee may do, we try not to bury people, but we do want to stay linked in. And you can always go to www.aiccbox.org, and you can always look at the calendar. We've got a revised membership directory there that is much more user-friendly than the old one. So if you're looking for a supplier, or if you are looking for a box maker in another part of the country to partner with, and we've also got some white papers to show some arrangements, template arrangements. If you get knocked out by the COVID, you got to take a machine center down, how do you still deliver boxes to the customer? We've got a template for that. So, you know, all of that development is at the information's at the website.
All that's to do with, if you're engaging, the information's there. I can attest from support side, from an AICC Canada member. Anytime I call Mike, anytime I call Virginia, anytime I call anybody from international, it's a very candid, very upfront conversation. And I've been incredibly impressed about when Steve and I or committees are brainstorming about what to do, certainly now, or even in the past when things were a little bit more normal. Anytime I ask Mike what he thought of it, chances are he was already 2 or 3 steps ahead of me and would be willing to share whatever information he had gathered. So it's been a great relationship. I just want to thank you for that. On the education side, that was a great part of the presentation as well. I know Virginia's probably going to talk a little bit about that, but one thing I did get a comment from a few members about how beneficial it is for cross training, which is a big word in our companies right now. As you know, business consistently inconsistent is what I meant to say. It's great to be cross-training people in different departments that they can pick up and move and pick up and move and pick up and move and become a little bit more I guess more of a utility player. Well, that being said, if anybody else has any more questions, I'm just checking here to see if I missed anything. I hope we did a good enough job answering your question. If I didn't, Greg, feel free to contact me directly. After the meeting, I'd be happy to talk about it with you. Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you, Michael.